Selected idea: the opioid crisis, how Purdue Pharma profited from addiction. Script: in the late 1990s, a quiet epidemic began to spread through America's small towns. It did not have a familiar name. It wasn't a virus or a bacteria. It started in places like rural Maine and the hollows of Appalachia. Pharmacists noticed strange patterns. Doctors in emergency rooms saw a sudden spike in overdoses from prescription painkillers. This was the beginning of a crisis that would eventually claim hundreds of thousands of lives, and it started not on the street, but in the doctor's office. For decades, the medical community had been cautious about using strong opioids for chronic pain. These drugs were powerful, effective, and known to be highly addictive. They were reserved primarily for cancer patients and end-of-life care. But a new idea was taking hold in the 1990s. Pain, some argued, was being undertreated. It was labeled the fifth vital sign. This created a market for a new kind of solution. A privately held company named Purdue Pharma saw the opportunity. Owned by the secretive and wealthy Sackler family, Purdue was a small player in the pharmaceutical world, but the Sacklers, particularly Arthur Sackler, had pioneered a new form of aggressive medical marketing decades earlier. They understood how to influence doctors and shape medical opinion. In 1996, Purdue launched the product that would transform their fortunes. It was called OxyContin. The drug itself was not new. Its active ingredient, OxyContin, was a well-known opioid synthesized in 1916. Purdue's innovation was a patented time-release formula called Contin. This mechanism was designed to release the drug slowly over 12 hours, and this feature became the foundation of their entire marketing strategy. Purdue claimed that because of this slow release, the risk of addiction was less than 1%. This single reassuring statistic was a revolution. It told doctors that they could now safely prescribe a powerful opioid for a wide range of common ailments. Back pain, arthritis, work injuries. A sales force of hundreds, soon to be over 1,000, was unleashed. They were armed with data, bonuses, and a simple message. A doctor's duty was to relieve suffering, and OxyContin was the safe way to do it. Purdue's marketing was surgical. They used prescribing data to identify doctors who were already heavy users of painkillers. These doctors were targeted with sales visits, free meals, and branded merchandise. Top prescribers were invited to all expenses-paid seminars in resort locations. Purdue funded thousands of educational programs for doctors, nurses, and pharmacists. The message was consistent, pervasive, and highly effective. Sales exploded. From $45 million in its first full year, OxyContin sales surpassed $1 billion by 2000. By 2010, it had generated an estimated $31 billion in revenue for Purdue. The Sackler family became one of the wealthiest families in America. Their name was inscribed on the walls of the world's most prestigious museums and universities. But as the company's profits soared, the stories from small-town America grew more desperate. Users had quickly discovered a fatal flaw in the wonder drug. Crushing a single pill defeated the time-release mechanism entirely. This allowed the full dose to be snorted or injected at once, producing a powerful heroin-like high. The feature that was supposed to make the drug safe was its greatest vulnerability. The less than 1% claim was proving to be tragically false. Purdue Pharma was aware of these reports. Instead of pulling the drug, they doubled down. They insisted the problem was not the drug itself, but the people who were abusing it. They launched a campaign to combat diversion and doctor shopping. The blame was shifted from the product to the patient. Meanwhile, their sales reps continued to push for higher and higher doses. The consequences were cascading. A generation of patients, prescribed the drug for legitimate pain, found themselves dependent. When their prescriptions ran out or when doctors became more cautious, they faced a terrible withdrawal. Many turned to the black market for OxyContin pills. When the pills became too expensive, they found a cheaper, more potent alternative. That alternative was heroin. The line from a legal prescription to an illegal, deadly street drug had been drawn. Lawsuits began to mount. In 2007, Purdue Pharma and 3 of its top executives pleaded guilty to federal criminal charges of misbranding the drug. They admitted to misleading regulators, doctors, and patients about its risk of addiction. The company paid a fine of $634.5 million. It was one of the largest fines ever levied against a pharmaceutical company at the time. But for Purdue, it was equivalent to a fraction of 1 year's revenue from OxyContin. No executive served any prison time. After the settlement, the marketing continued, both in the U.S. and abroad. The crisis deepened, evolving as fentanyl entered the illicit drug supply. By 2017, the United States declared the opioid crisis a public health emergency. The sheer volume of litigation from states, cities, and tribes became overwhelming. Facing an avalanche of more than 2,000 lawsuits, Purdue Pharma filed for bankruptcy in 2019. This was not a typical bankruptcy. It was a strategy to resolve all claims against the company and, crucially, against the Sackler family themselves. For years, the Sacklers had paid themselves billions of dollars out of Purdue's profits. Now, they offered to contribute several billion of that fortune to a settlement. In exchange, they demanded a legal shield that would protect them from all current and future civil lawsuits related to the opioid crisis. The deal was, and remains, intensely controversial. It meant that the family who personally profited from the sale of OxyContin would never have to face a jury of their peers. They would retain the majority of their vast fortune. The money from the settlement would go towards abatement programs for the very crisis their product fueled. But for the families who lost everything, it felt like an impossible bargain. A system of incentives designed to maximize profit had led to a public health catastrophe, and the architects of that system walked away with their fortunes intact.